Hey guys, Chad back with another YouTube video, and after a long wait, it's finally over. I'm going to do a series on my collection called Dark Shadows. And for those of you who don't know what Dark Shadows is, well, back in 1966, a long time ago, uh, June 27th, I believe, was the start date. There was a daytime soap opera, uh, and soap operas were big back then. And this one was started out as a kind of a Jane Eyre story about a girl who gets hired by a rich family uh, who own the whole town basically, and she comes to the town to take care of their troubled uh, little boy who lives in the mansion. Um, it really didn't have a lot of names, big name stars for that time, but they did get Joan Bennett, who Joan and Constant Bennett were both big movie stars back in the day, and Joan basically was the star of this show as well. So the first 6 to 8 months of the show were kind of like your typical daytime soap operas, although it had some spooky elements to it. Uh, she'd get locked in the closet, like someone was trying to get her, creaky doors, blah, blah, blah. So there wasn't really much interest in the show, other than your uh, housewives that were home during the day that watched soap operas. So the creator of the show, whose name is Dan Curtis, and Dan Curtis had quite an illustrious career. Basically, Dark Shadows was like his first big show. I mean, he used to produce golf shows on network television. Later, he went on to do Winds of War, War and Remembrance, which were like big TV uh, dramas, like miniseries and stuff. If you look into um, Dan Curtis, he also had quite a career doing horror stories and stuff. He redid some of the classics like Frankenstein and so forth. So look him up on IMDb, Dan Curtis. But he had a vision for this show, and his original vision. He woke up in the middle of the night, supposedly, and about this girl coming to a town that she didn't know anybody, and she was hired by the rich family that owned the town to take care of the little boy. So the first 6 to 8 months were all about that. And then they started, the ratings started failing, and basically they decided to do some supernatural things, a little more levity there. They had, some ghost elements and so forth, and the ratings shot up a little bit. They brought in a character um, that was a phoenix, and which nobody really knew what that was at the time, and it had a big clash too. And then they were going to get canceled, and they decided to really go out with a bang. And supposedly, Dan's daughters just told him to put a vampire in. So they were going to put a vampire in, and basically, within 6 to 8 weeks, uh, he was going to be killed off, and the show was probably going to be ended. However, everything turned around once the vampire showed up, and vampire was Jonathan Frid, who was a Canadian-born actor. Um, there's so many stories you can go online and read about Dark Shadows of the history and so forth, but Jonathan Frid supposedly got cast by accident, but he brought a quality to the character that you felt sympathetic for him, and daytime TV, the housewives really loved him, and the kids, were suddenly watching, and it was scary, and even though this was actually done live TV to tape, like even if there was a blooper, it really had to be a bad blooper to get cut, because back then they were filming right on the tape. They would have to go back with a razor blade and cut the scene out and go start shooting again. So they didn't like to do that. So they would go ahead and, as long as it was not a horrible mistake, they would just go ahead and leave it in there. So that's sort of the ambiance of Dark Shadows. Is you can go back and you can watch people messing up their lines and props moving, you know backdrops moving, the whole thing. This is really kind of a neat feel to the show. Uh, the reason it's so personable for me was I was very little when it came on, and my brother and sister were into the show, and my mother too, believe it or not. So uh, they were like in high school, junior high. I was just a baby, but I do remember seeing the show. And then, like later on, after the show lasted 5 years. It went off in 1971, I believe around April 2nd or so of 1971, and it was 1,225 episodes total that they filmed on the show. So it was about a 5 year run, and then it went into syndication, and we caught it back when we lived in New England on a New Hampshire station, and even my dad, who didn't like that kind of show, would watch the show. So it really had this warm feel for me. My At one time or another, my whole family and myself enjoyed the show. There's been some reincarnations of the show, if you will. Um, and it definitely has a cult following. It's very much like Star Trek, Doctor Who, any of these big shows. Uh, but the fan base is very loyal. Um, it's a very poor fandom, and more than not, the original show is near and dear to the fans. The best an effort, which in my opinion was 1991, they filmed it in 1990, was the revamping of the show for NBC TV. And there was basically 12, 13 episodes of the show, which starred Ben Cross as Barnabas, and Gene Simmons, not the Kiss guy, but the British actress, and she played the part that Joan Bennett played. So the resurgence of the show had some actors that were kind of well known and so forth, and went on to do other things. Adrian Paul, who did Highlander, was in it, and so forth. So anyway, there was some really, it was really well done. There was no bloopers or anything, and because TV had advanced so much. But the big issue was when they showed this in '91 was the Gulf War, and the ratings suffered on NBC, and they pulled the plug on the show, and they realized after they did it, it was a big mistake, but kind of was too late to do anything about it. So, but even though those 12, 13 episodes, to me, they were so well done, and a lot of people like that, that don't like the original show, but most people, again, love the original show and don't like anything later. They also tried to do a Broadway version of the show, which totally bombed. I think it lasted, about a week off Broadway. And it was pretty bad from understanding of people that have went to see it back in the day. Then WB Network filmed a pilot in 2004 of Dark Shadows, again, a resurgence of the show. It had some also, again, well-known actors and actresses for that time. Alec Newman, who had been on different Star Trek shows and things like that, and Ivana Malkovich, who had been on Banshee, and she's in a bunch of other shows. So, I've seen it. I actually own a copy because it was never released. Or shown on TV. It was never totally finished, but again, it was. They were trying to get it into like the supernatural, grim, charmed area of WB Network, and again, they dropped the ball. And it was always said that they should have kept going. Okay, so that bombed. Then in 2012, Johnny Depp, who was, and Tim Burton, who are very well known, did a version of the movie, and it was not well received at all by the traditional fans. It was very tongue-in-cheek, a little bit of humor in it. I think it was interesting because um, to me it had been done over and over the same way. This was kind of a little bit of a different version of it, and I mean, I don't love it, but I don't hate it either. It's to me, it's a good reincarnation of the show, but as far as the movie. But the original show did spawn off two major motion pictures on MGM. It was House of Dark Shadows, Night of Dark Shadows. It's the only daytime soap opera to ever have theatrical movies released. So again, the original show, there's nothing like it. It's obviously dated a little bit. They didn't have cell phones back then and computers and whatnot, but it still holds its own, and it has time travel and things like that. So the show really, really was well done and well written, well acted, and for me, it's near and dear because my whole family at one time or another all watched the show. So it will go down as my favorite all time TV series. And I have other shows that I really, really love, but that is more sentimental than anything. I also wanted to say with this little thing, if you haven't seen my collection videos, because again, I do all this for you guys because you requested to see my collections, you can go back to the beginning when I started doing this over a year ago, and you can see my Danny Roebuck video. You can see That Thing You Do collection, Bruce Willis. You can see a bunch of things that my Buck Showalter collection, what I actually collect. And I do have a hodgepodge of collection. I don't really collect anything of that huge value, but at one time I will tell you, I did collect Dark Shadows, majorly. I pretty much wanted to have a Dark Shadows museum, so I basically there was a book put out. I think it was like in the 2000s. It's called The Collectible Book, Dark Shadows Collectible Book, and I'll actually look at it here, by Pomegranate Press, and it was let's see. Well, it's kind of dark in here. I'm not really seeing 1998. It's only about 150, 110 pages, something like that. 100 and wow, my glasses are bad. 104 pages. So a lot of pictures in here, but this basically covers the collectability of Dark Shadows. Of course, there's been stuff that come out since this book was published. But I'll go into, in the next video, go into more of the Dark Shadows collectability and so forth. But I basically just wanted to give you an introduction to the series, and why I collected it, as well as go back, if you haven't seen all my collecting videos. I have a bunch of ripping videos. I have record store of day videos. I have all kind of videos that different people have wanted to see, and I've kept doing these recap videos, things I got on eBay, things I've got at card shows and flea markets and so forth. So I got a whole catalog of videos that you can watch now, and I try to never make them really any more than 20 minutes at the most, if that. But I did want to go back and, in case you guys didn't get a chance to see what I collect, and I think there's maybe around 6 to 8 videos total of the collections, and I do make them all short and sweet. Well, this is going to take a little bit longer to discuss Dark Shadows because there is so much collecting in the show. So I'm going to use this book. I'm going to show you some pictures in the next video of collections and what to get. But it was really, really interesting. So again, the show, 1966-71. It's definitely an older show. You can watch episodes on YouTube. You can get it on DVD. And again, another interesting fact about the show, it is, again, for that time frame, one of the only series they have ever found basically every episode and have released it on DVD, because they used to tape over the tapes back then, and a lot of daytime programming was just lost because they never saved it. But Dark Shadows, for some reason, made it through, and they found the masters, and they went ahead and reissued the show, and in a lot of cases have enhanced the color, and it was also done black and white the first year or so. But almost every episode is available. I think with the exception of one episode, they kind of pieced together. So 1,225 episodes total. Great history of the show. And again, why I really love the show is, again, it's a family thing for me. But, I do love other shows like The Sopranos and Wise Guy and The Pretender and, Charmed and so forth. I've tons of series that I really do like over the years, as well as classic TV, as well, The Fugitive and things like that. We really like those shows. So, but I will go in the next video. I'll go into the collectability of this series and what there is out there to have and what I still collect. Okay, so I'll go into that in the next video. I'll probably do at least 2 more videos so you get a feel of the show as well. But please like and subscribe. Email me. I'll put my email in the description. Check on my eBay page. I don't have any Dark Shadows items available on eBay. I like to take that back. I have Dark Shadows cards on eBay. But if you like, subscribe, comment. I'd love to hear from you. And email me with any questions on the series. I'd be glad to answer them for you. Okay? So thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a great week, and God bless.